Well, welcome everyone to the March 15th, 2022 council meeting. As a reminder, this meeting is live streamed, recorded, and available on the internet by visiting the town's website at www.parrysound.ca. And we also acknowledge that we're on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people under the Robinson-Huron Treaty and the waterways traveled by the Métis of our region. So, we'll begin. Are there any additions to the agenda? I have one. It's item 10.5.1, and because it's late, I think you were notified today that it's on there. It's in other business. It's about receiving some funding, so I think it's a good bylaw to have come forward. Any other prioritization? Councillor Bachman?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to move items 9.42 and 10.41 up.
9.42. 10.41.
Correct.
Great. I just got to grab them now while. There's two parts, 10.41. So
Excuse me, Mayor McGarvey, was that 9.41 and 9.42 or 10.41?
9.42 and 10.41. Which has part A and B.
Thank you.
Okay, anything further? Nope, I need a mover and seconder for the agenda then. Councillor McCann, Councillor Borneman, that the council agenda for March 15th, 2022 be approved as amended. Everyone in favor of that? Okay, that's carried, none opposed. Any disclosure, pecuniary interest, or the general nature thereof? Nope, okay. Minutes, but I need a mover and seconder for the minutes. Councillor Bagan, Councillor Bachman, the minutes from the regular council meeting held, sorry, Roger's laughing, it's Councillor Burden. That's bad. Anyway.
Cliff would be proud.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's been a while since Councillor Reagan sat at the table.
No, it's I don't know, it's what goes on up here or whatever and that kind of stuff. I thought I'd got that out of my mind, but anyway. So moved by Councillor Burden, second by Councillor Bachman, that the minutes from the regular council meeting held March 1st, 2022 be approved as circulated. Is there any discussion, comments on the minutes from that meeting? Nope. All in favor of the minutes? Okay, not opposed, that's carried. Questions of staff? Councillor McCann.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is for Mr. Kearns. I sent an email out earlier this week, and I thought maybe I'd give you a chance to speak to it. We all know that we have an issue with speeding on some of our roads, some worse than others. And I was wondering if we looked at what the greater city of Sudbury is doing as a project towards traffic calming. And they're putting up these traffic bollards. And they're very cost effective. They're an easy way, easy to put up in the spring and take down in the fall. And they sort of narrow I guess, the path somewhat, and they're just there enough to get the driver's attention to slow them down. I wondered if it's something that we could look at for streets like Waddick and other problem areas, and what your feeling is on these bollards.
Certainly, through your worship, I think it's important for us to quantify problem areas, which is something we're trying to do with the various speed measurement devices that we have, because the initial data from last year didn't really indicate a large problem on Waddick Street. It was very isolated and very few in number, which
Really?
becomes very difficult to control when you have it's difficult to enforce, and it's much it's good to take into consideration the data, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So I think, those are certainly traffic calming efforts that I've seen elsewhere, whether it's bollards or bullnoses and narrowing streets, or getting the feel of the narrowing of streets. And sometimes it's even done with road markings. So it's certainly something we can look at, but I think it's important for us to evaluate the data and decide, rather than assuming we have an issue, to use the data, the empirical data, to show that, if we have a problem area, certainly we will look at various ways in which we can help calm that traffic.
Certainly. Yeah, I saw it and I thought it was a great idea. And they're not terribly difficult to look at either. And best of all, you can take them down for winter maintenance, which I thought was great. Okay, thank you.
I think you'd have to, because what I saw, they probably get smacked pretty good.
And they may get smacked before winter comes too.
Well, they might. That's true. Although,
you.
I did see some of the data, and River Street, I tell you, that was a speedway.
Yeah.
Councillor Keith and then Councillor Borneman.
Thank you. My question is for Mr. Cairns, and that has to do with, first of all, I want to say I'm proud to be a Parry Sounder, and I think overall that staff, we try to staff for the town of Parry Sound, the Public Works Department, try to do a pretty good job of keeping the downtown street and sidewalk clean after snowfalls. However, there is a concern for people who have disabilities and are using a vehicle when they park in an accessible parking spot. And for example, if they need a wheelchair and they want to put down their ramp from their vehicle to get to the sidewalk, because it seems that the snow is not really completely cleared in what I would term as kind of like that brick boulevard, it makes it very difficult at times for people to get out of their chairs and get to the sidewalk. And this is very concerning. I've been contacted by some people who have a disability and have advised me they have tried in the past to get that rectified. And I'm wondering how we can make this happen on a very regular basis, that the snow is cleared in that area, because I think it's really important. Now, we know, for example, just recently last week, I understand that a person tried to get out with their wheelchair and wanted to actually spend money besides. And we know that downtown is suffering. And if people can get out to restaurants and get money out of the bank and circulate that money, that's really good for all of us. But if they have real difficulty in doing that, it is very hard. So I'm wondering how we make that happen. And do we have a policy on that? Can you assist me, Mr. Cairns?
Yes, through your worship, I am not aware of a specific policy to deal with the accessible parking areas and the clearing of snow. Now, that being said, that's certainly something we can take a look at. I think we would want to better understand perhaps how the vehicles are set up. I know I've seen different configurations. Some are access through the rear, some are through the side. So those could present some challenges. With most of our accessible parking areas are tucked into the last, well, some of them are tucked into the last parking spot, which would make it very difficult to access from the rear. So I'm not aware that we have a specific policy. We do try and attempt to clear the snow as often as possible. And as you mentioned, Councillor Keith, there are a lot of needs around town. So staff do try and make sure that they can meet all of those in a timely manner. So we'll certainly take a look at what we can do, the exact configuration of the parking areas, where the spots are, and perhaps there may be a need for a policy going forward for us to have a clearance time and perhaps an adjustment of exactly where those spots are. But that's something we can talk between Public Works and bylaw and have a look at.
Do you follow up? Oh, you're muted, Councillor Keith.
It's out of habit. I always mute after asking my question. I apologize. I guess I've been trained in one fashion. In any event, what I'm asking is, I appreciate what I've heard tonight, but I would be asking that there be a direction, that a report be prepared for council and be brought back to council regarding this matter, accessibility spots, and how it can be better, how we can do a better job of making sure snow is removed on those boulevards downtown at accessible spots. So I would ask that a report be brought back to council, and that'll give time to investigate that further.
Is there a seconder for direction? Councillor Bachman seconding that. Any comments? Councillor McCann?
I think thinking about it, it would be prudent for us to follow up on that. My work with community support services, just last week, I had an issue where a vehicle without a permit was parked in a handicap zone, and I had an individual in a wheelchair, and I really had to do some fancy maneuvering to get her out of the vehicle. So clearly, you know, I think it's important to remind people that you can't park in those areas if you don't have a sticker in your window. And so I think we should look at this.
Okay. All right. Anyone opposed to looking at this? No, no one is. So that's carried. All right. So there's direction for that. Councillor Borneman, you're next.
Your worship, Mr. Cairns, you're a popular guy tonight. We've heard that we're about to see some paving undertaken on portions of the connecting link, and I'm sure that'll be welcomed by all. It may exacerbate our speeding problem. Let's hope not, but history would tell us to be warned. My question is about paving in other areas of the town. There are a number of streets, Hillcrest and Addy in particular, come to mind in my morning walks. Hillcrest is close to being a gravel road at this time, and Addy Street's in dire need of some assistance as well. Where would they be on our list of to-dos?
Through you, your worship. So they are certainly on our list. Of concern recently is the cost of oil and what impact that's going to have on our ability to extend paving throughout town. So we had anticipated initially some increases. Of course, that seems to be a regular thing. Unfortunately, obviously, we're seeing some world circumstances that have accelerated those increases and went well beyond anyone's guesses at that time. So we were looking at some further paving projects in addition to the ones on Bow Street and on Joseph Street. Basically, we're going to need to better understand, and we hope to do that soon when we see the spring asphalt pricing. We'll better understand exactly, what ability we're going to have from a financial perspective to extend our paving this year. So they are on the list. I can't say how far we're going to get beyond the two paving projects that we brought forward. We do have plans to extend to some of the lower volume roadways, because we don't want to lose sight of the fact that not only the main roads can be repaired, we need to stay on top of that moving through town, and some of the low volume roads certainly can't be ignored. But like I said, I'm not sure that we'll know in April. We may not know until the start of May what that asphalt index pricing is going to look like, but we'll certainly have get as much done as we can.
Councillor Borneman, you have a follow-up?
Yes, your worship, that was a good segue. The next question is sort of for you, Mr. Mayor. In view of the price of gas and oil, with inflation being what it is, I'm wondering if AMO has had any communication with the province or the federal government about stalling the next round of carbon tax increases and ways to mitigate these escalating costs, because in an area where tourism is a huge part of our economy, this is going to bite. It's another price of gas is almost another stay-at-home edict in some ways for many people who might consider traveling to our part of the world.
I have to tell you, no, they haven't. The board meets at the end of the month. I can certainly ask if they're interested in it, but they have a pretty green lean as far as how things go. So I'll check with the executive director and see what he says and what he wants, like how that would go. So because there's a lot that fall on, I understand what you're saying, but there's a lot that fall on the green side that say, we need to be doing something about our environment. And but the price of, I had fielded a phone call on the weekend, somebody upset with the price of gas and that sort of thing. I mean, we have no control as a municipality or council or whatever as to the price in our community. That's up to the business person and what they feel, I guess, the market will bear. And I know that they're looking around at other places and seeing gas much lower than what it is here. And I'd have to question myself, why are we being charged so much? So but the Better Business Bureau is the one that is better to vent your frustration through with that, with regard to the price of actual gasoline, because my understanding is Friday and Saturday the price was supposed to go down, but there was no budge. So I don't know. I can ask about that. But I was going to say too, when you're talking about Addy Street, I did drive around by Addy Street to have a look, because I had that email from someone that lives there, and there are areas that are in really, really bad shape, like tough shape. Same with Hillcrest, and there's a number of other places too, Sunset Court, and, that are in really rough shape. Wood Street. Hopefully if we do some of that major work on Wood Street or whatever, and Isabella Street, that at the railway tracks, that maybe we have some money to do some resurfacing as well. So we'll see. Anyway, Councillor Keith and then Councillor Bachman.
Yes, just a quick question, Mr. Mayor. And what I'm wondering about is, does the public have access to be able to know what streets are a priority for the paving at this present time, even after it's examined of costs, et cetera? Is that accessible to the public?
That would be a question for Mr. Kearns to find out if it's on the website.
Yes, Your Worship, we can take a look at that. That'll be part of the budget package. So Bow Street, Forest Street, and Georgina and Park Avenue were listed this
Right.
year.
I remember that. Yeah.
And I believe that the asset management plan, the current version, is also on the website. Now, that being said, we have a number of projects being done this year that will update that information. So it may very well change. We've had streets obviously react differently. This year has been a tough one on all public works departments, I think, in the province. The freeze-thaw cycles, have been very difficult on a lot of roadways. So we should have a new asset management plan ready for the website too by July 1st. So the existing one is there. It will be updated this year. And those other projects are part of the plans for this year. Now, having said that, we hope, to find the most efficient and effective way of doing these projects. And as you were mentioning, Your Worship, that I think we are certainly going to have to take a hard look at the way in which we've always done things and see if there are other options out there to allow us to get more done with less effectively. So.
Yep. No, good point. Councillor Bachman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, just in regards to Hillcrest Street, I did receive several calls and received comments through online in regards to not so much the paving, but the filling of the potholes. And I'm just wondering if that is something that we can expect happen on Hillcrest Street in the near future.
Through Your Worship, it's actually an ongoing process throughout town. Has been throughout the winter in between snow events, but it'll certainly be accelerated in appropriate weather conditions. Obviously, it's very difficult to patch in certain spring melt conditions, but staff will be out there on a constant basis. As I mentioned, unfortunately this year has been more difficult than normal with freeze-thaw cycles and the asphalt reacting the way it does. So they will be out there on a continuous basis.
Okay, good. All right. Are we questioned out? Councillor Borneman, is your hand up again, or is that? Oh, okay. All right. Okay. All right. Ms. Johnson, correspondence, please.
Worship, we just have one item of correspondence. It's from Christine Levesque and Chris Weffler, owners at 40 Pine Drive in the municipality of Seguin, the township of Seguin, requesting services, water and sewer services to their property. So that has been referred to the Director of Public Works for response per policy.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, there are no deputations, so we'll go to reports and I'll go across the screen. So Councillor McCann, you're up.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and fellow councillors and staff and public. Just one meeting to report on. Last Wednesday morning, the 9th of March, and along with Councillor Bachman, we attended the Parry Sound Public Library monthly board meeting, and financial discussions centered on revenue and sustainability. Financial statements were received. We welcomed Jamie Cameron as a new part-time children's coordinator. There's more discussion about the future of the library building, its sustainability, and we looked at some options. That's an ongoing dialogue. Our CEO's report was received, which included activity for the month of March, or rather for the March break. A thing called Story Walk is happening once again this summer through the TD Summer Reading Program, partnering with the DBA. Story time Tuesday mornings with Jamie starts April. Yoga continues. I guess there's a lot of enthusiasm and participation with that Wednesday afternoons. And a book sale got underway in March, continues through till the end of April. Also, there's a kids stuff mini market going on. For programs, information, hours, visit the library's website at parrysoundlibrary.com. Vanessa, is that the right email domain name? I think it is. Anyhow, that's my report.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Borneman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, everyone. Last Tuesday, the Airport Commission met. I wasn't able to be there, but the 2022 budget passed with again, no increase to the municipal contribution. Work continues on the runway project. And it looks like they're making, the weather's been more cooperative. It looks like they're making pretty good headway. The only other thing I'd like to add this evening is a congratulations to Mark Idison and his team for winning bronze in Beijing. Keep it going, Mark. We hope to see you in 4 years' time. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Bachman.
Thank you, Your Worship. I only have one meeting to report this evening, and that is with regards to the public library. We met last Wednesday. I would just like to advise council that I did bring forth discussions pertaining to asking our service contract for additional funding or for us to go to our service contracts, but the board has no desire to take that process and solely feels that it is the responsibility of the town of Parry Sound to pursue that. So I have put forth a request to meet with the chair, and we are going to determine next steps and obviously some additional conversations, and that might be something that needs to come back to the board, or sorry, to council for further discussion in the very near future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Horn.
Good evening, all. On March 2nd, I attended the Bobby Orr Hall of Fame committee meeting. So we're looking forward, COVID willing, to an in-person Bobby Orr Hall of Fame induction ceremony for athletes and builders from 2020. So Saturday, June 18th, and we're looking forward to inducting Chris Lee, athlete, and Sarah Sally Manning, athlete, and Peter Wiltman, builder. Tickets are available at the Bobby Orr Hall of Fame website, again, COVID willing. So we are looking forward to that. And on March 14th, last night, I attended the Parry Sound Area Chamber of Commerce meeting. That's it. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Burden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. On March the 9th, I attended the next meeting of the Bobby Orr Hall of Fame ad hoc redesign committee for the purpose of awarding the contract. I'm not going to get into any details on that because Caitlin Dyer, the curator of the Bobby Orr Hall of Fame, is here with us this evening, and I'll leave that to her to explain. But I did want to say thank you, and the committee is so proud of the work that Caitlin and her staff at the hall did to complete this process. It was great. They put a tremendous amount of work into it and made a lot of phone calls and called people who have had past work done by these contractors, and that was very worthwhile. So anyway, I'll let Caitlin give you the rest of the details on that. And thanks again, Caitlin and Nicole and Kelsey for all the work you've done. It was wonderful. March 9th, I attended the regular meeting of the Downtown Business Association. Plans for the summer festival, which will take place on July 16th. are well underway, and they're pretty excited about that. It looks like a good party. The main street hopefully will be closed off, and lots of entertainment and food vendors, and hopefully lots of sidewalk sales and music into the evening. So it sounds like lots of fun. So mark July 16th on your calendar, please. Unfortunately, the following day, we received a message from David Coles, who has been the board of director of or the chairman of the board of directors of the DBA for several years, is resigning, citing too much on his plate. He's been asked to continue on as the commander of the Air Cadets, and has just made the decision that he's going to do that, and doesn't have time to do both. So I want to thank David for a wonderful job he's done. He's been a really good chairman, and I thank him for all he's done and wish him best in whatever he does in the future. David is not leaving town. He's still at Georgian Bay Software and is remaining there. March 10th, regular meeting of the District Social Services Administration Board. Good news, they have found a replacement for retiring Mitzi Dinsmore. New lady Shannon Johnson will be starting on March the 28th. Mitzi will stay on until June to help her figure everything out and get her going. And I wish her good luck, and want her to know that we're all there to help her as much as we can. And also, the DSAB made an interesting decision on at the meeting that we are going to continue doing our meetings online when the COVID restrictions come to an end. Have found it works just fine and saves a tremendous amount of traveling. And we have people traveling from Callander to Parry Sound on winter nights, and it's just not a good situation. There's going to be some cost savings, of course, because we do pay mileage for the people to make their trips back and forth between here and Sudridge for these meetings. So all said and done, it sounds like a good plan to me, and maybe set a precedent for other groups to consider doing the same thing. And that's my report.
Thank you. Councillor Keith.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, fellow councillors, staff, and the public. I attended no sessions. None were available to me, so that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Keith. So council, staff, and public, March 7th in the morning, I had an Ontario Small Urban Municipalities meeting. March 7th. March 10th, I attended an MOU pre-meeting in the morning and an MOU meeting with the province in the afternoon. And then the evening was the Parry Sound District Social Services Board meeting that Councillor Burden covered off very well. I have, when I get forwarded the CAO's report, when it's released, I have been forwarding that to council members. So hopefully you've been getting that, so you can see what's going on. On March 18th, the Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities, otherwise known as FNOM, is going to be having their board meeting here in Parry Sound. And they will be meeting in the council chambers here. So everything's been worked through, Ms. Johnson and that. I had a good conversation with Mac Bain, their executive director, last week about a number of things, and was able to get our staff member, Forrest Pengra, into their board meeting to hear a presentation from the Independent Electricity System Operator, otherwise known as IESO. This presentation is about looking forward to the future of electricity supply. And I've heard most of the presentation already, but it's between IESO and the government and trying to move alternative forms of capturing electricity and distributing it, I think is right up Forest Waterhouse, and that we is something for our community certainly to look at as well, given the speedier project that we have and everything. So I'm hoping that there'll be some good information there, and we can use it to certainly our advantage. Before COVID, we had applied to have the FNOM conference here, again in Parry Sound. And we're hoping that now that things are opening up, we might have their conference either here next year or the year after. Having that influx of people into our community is a big advantage because they'll have 250 plus people here, which is good for business and the local economy. So hopefully we'll hear something on that soon. As Councillor Borneman mentioned, congratulations go to Mark Idison for bronze in the leading his curling team to a bronze medal in the Paralympics. Well done, and just keep going. It's amazing the career that Mark has had. Just a comment. COVID-19 mandates will be relaxing and lifting soon. And I know there will be people that will want to get rid of masks and those that won't. Whichever path you decide to follow, please be kind to each other. You need to know how comfortable you're going to be and how you want to proceed. And I will say there's enough conflict going on in this world right now that we should be able to accept each other's choices and move forward. So I'm hoping that there is that kindness out there and would do that, because I know I talk to people every day and it's, one way or the other. Well, whatever that person decides to go or accept, just again, be kind, please. Would be greatly appreciated. Okay, on with the agenda. So we have 2 items moved up. First one is 942, moved by Councillor McCann and seconded by Councillor Horn. The council supports the phase 2 application to the Rural Enhancement Fund administered by the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation, NOHFC, and that council commit to cover any cost overruns on the Bobby Orr Hall of Fame exhibition redesign project. Discussion. Councillor Keith.
Yes, I'd just like to have clarification in respect to that resolution. Where would any cost overruns money, where would they come out of? What reserve, or is Ms. Phillips or Caitlin, Ms. Dyer, can somebody explain that to me? Thanks.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. If there were to be cost overruns, I'd like to reiterate we're not expecting to have any cost overruns, but the wording from NOHFC requires that is the approval from council. If there were to be any cost overruns, I expect that they would be funded from either the operating budget for the Stocky Center and Bobby Orr Hall of Fame, or from the Bobby Orr Hall of Fame Special Projects Reserve Fund, depending on the amount. Ms. Phillips?
So on that as well, a report would go back to council, just advising council of an update of how those costs are coming forward, and would recommend that anything over and above what is budgeted to be funded from the reserve, or however we're going to handle that. So a report would go to council with a recommendation, and then it would be funded if that were to occur.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Bachman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, Ms. Dyer, what is the current amount of funding that you've received for this project?
Thus far, we have $495,000 odd. I can't remember the exact figure off the top of my head, but it's around $495,000 in federal funding that's been committed. So this would be on top of that money as well.
And just as a follow-up, have you received quotes to date for majority of the project?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we have. So that is the The second resolution I have on the agenda tonight is for the award of the contract for the project. So that covers, those really are the majority of the project costs that we're looking at. And then anything else would be once contractors take a look at things and they may find that we need a few electrical upgrades to the base facility in order to bring in something new. Those would be the only outstanding things, and it's a small percentage of the overall project budget.
Okay, great. Thank you for that confirmation. Appreciate it.
Okay. Any other questions, comments on this one? Nope. Anyone opposed to passing this resolution? Nope, that's carried. So item 10.4.1a, moved by Councillor McCann, second by Councillor Backman. The council award the contract for exhibition design, fabrication, and installation services for the Bobby Orr Hall of Fame exhibition to Cubic Maltby, theirs being the highest scoring proposal of 3 received. So this is the one to accept the company. Comments, questions? The next is a bylaw that is the bylaw that details out the design, fabrication, and installation. That's in the next one. So any comments on accepting this company? Councillor Borneman.
Ms. Dyer, I'm just wondering if the formula, the schedule that was used, is that normal, or is that a one-off that was developed by your squad specifically to do this project?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, do you mean the evaluation criteria?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a one-off. That we sort of looked at the overall picture of what we're hoping to achieve with this project and where we felt the weights really should be. You'll notice that we did place a great deal of weight, if I can pull that up, on the design approach and the references from the various contractors. We felt that that was important. So 30% was their approach to the design and their understanding of the project at 10%. So we felt like with receiving qualified proposals that met all of the base requirements we had requested, that what this project really comes down to is a team that will be successful if we have a team that understands the vision. They have the skills and technology necessary to execute, as well as just being good communicative partners.
So a good fit, that's always important. Thank you.
Yes.
Councillor McCann.
I was wondering if I should ask this question now or with the next item, but in terms of the work being done and in the report, it looks like we're a year away from the point of completion. Can you speak to the availability of the Bobby Orr Hall of Fame to the public this year, and at what point will it be closed off to the public to facilitate the reconstruction?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So we do expect to be open to the public through until the fall. The exact dates we will have to determine closer to. It really depends. Like I say, once the contractors have taken a visit to the facility and can see in person if they think there are base facility upgrades, like to the electrical or lighting systems that we would need to implement first. And then there will be a period of taking everything down, but I would expect that we'll be open into the fall and then would close in the fall to sort of remove the existing exhibit and rehouse the artifacts for the construction to take place. And then the goal would be to reopen for public access in March of 2023.
Okay, things kind of froze up here a bit, but you pretty well answered my question then, and that's great then. Thank you very much. Good luck with this.
Big project. Councillor Bachman.
Thank you, Your Worship. One final question, Ms. Dyer. In regards to the proposal that was remitted, did you require a contingency as part of a line item in the proposal?
Through you, Your Worship, no, we didn't require the contractors to submit a contingency. This is the one that they've included in their budget, which was nice to see that they've left a healthy amount in there to deal with any issues that may pop up.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further? No? Anyone opposed to passing this resolution? Nope, it's carried. Okay, the bylaw, which is item 10.41B, moved by Councillor Keith, second by Councillor Horn. The bylaw number 2022-7230 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement with Cubic Maltby for the provision of exhibition, design, fabrication, and installation services for the Bobby Orr Hall of Fame be considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. Are all members in favor of having the second and third reading? And that's carried. Moved by Councillor Horn, second by Councillor Keith. The bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Discussion. Okay, anyone opposed to passing this bylaw? Nope, no one's opposed. That's carried. Ms. Dyer, good luck with all this. It's 20 years next year, so it's got to be done.
Thank you. It's a big job, but we're looking forward to it.
There you go. Okay, next moved by Councillor Horn and second by Councillor Keith. That the 2021 statement of remuneration paid to council and appointed board members attached to Schedule A be accepted. Any discussion? Nope. Okay, all in favor? Okay, that's carried. Item 921, moved by Councillor Borneman, second by Councillor Burden. The Council Corporation of the Town of Parry Sound accept and award the quotation from Marco Clay Products Incorporated for the infield rehabilitation on Diamonds 1 and 2 at the Kinsman Park for $45,994.94 plus HST, the lowest compliant bid of 2 quotations received, and that the shortfall of $6,804.45 be funded from the Parks Reserve. Any discussion? Councillor Keith?
Yes, thank you. Maybe Ms. McNamara can explain what happens to the existing, it says pea gravel infilled material that would be removed. Where does that go? Can we use that somewhere else, as we're always looking at recycling things? What happens to it, please?
Through your worship, part of this contract was to remove and dispose of this pea gravel. We don't have in Parks and Rec and in conversation with Public Works, we don't have any use for this pea gravel in parks. So the company will be taking that back. The company will be recycling that as part of their course of business.
Councillor Keith, you're muted again.
So there is no place in our community that we can use this pea gravel rather than just merely getting rid of it? And that being the case, if that's so, what happens to the pea gravel when it moves away from our community? What is it used for?
Through you, your worship, to be honest, Councillor Keith, that's not a question I asked. We didn't have a use for this pea gravel. We don't have a feasible location to store it. I asked for the contractor to remove it and dispose of it. The company that is awarded this contract, they are an aggregate company. This is what they do. They deal with raw materials like this. I'm sure if I were to go back and ask the question, they would have a purpose for this. As part of the quotation, it was noted that that the removal be part of everything.
All right. Any other questions? No. Anyone opposed to passing this resolution? Nope. No one's opposed. That's carried. Moved by Councillor Horn and seconded by Councillor McCann that council accept the bid from Wessex Incorporated in the amount of $59,871.24, including HST for sewer flushing, cleaning, and camera inspection of approximately 13,870 meters of sanitary sewer, this being the lowest compliant bid of the 10 bids received. Discussion. Councillor Borneman.
Mr. Kearns, does this project assist us with determining where or how much infiltration inflow we may have into the wastewater and sanitary sewer system?
Through you, your worship, partially, yes, absolutely, because this is going to include camera work. So it gives us a general condition of the system, the portions that we're cameraing, obviously, as well as a part of our ongoing maintenance, but it will help us identify visually where those areas of infiltration are occurring, yes.
And I would assume that from there that, you know, that will help direct where monies are spent in future with respect to the necessary repairs.
Through your worship, absolutely. It helps us prioritize areas, and obviously things change in the subsurface, and we don't, you know, we know the overall impacts, but we're not sure exactly what the contributions are or what the quantity of the contributions are individually. So this certainly helps us determine that. And the camera work is all measured, so we know exactly where it is in the pipe sections, and that allows us to pinpoint and plan for repairs.
Okay. Councillor McCann.
Mr. Kearns, I'm just chomping at the bit to ask you what the strangest thing your cameras might have seen down there. But my question would be, can you qualify exactly what inflow is? Is that storm water getting into the pipes? Is it a breakdown of the or disintegration of the pipes in the ground? What exactly is the inflow?
So through your worship, inflow, that would be more infiltration that you're referring to. So they're kind of the same. They result in the same thing, excess water into the system. Inflow may come from degraded structures through lids, those sorts of things, where infiltration happens in cracks in pipes and joints and separated joints within the sanitary collection system. So essentially, they're both the same thing. It's extra water that we want to remove from our system.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. I figured. Okay, thank you.
Anything else? No. Anyone opposed to passing this resolution? No one's opposed. That's carried. Moved by Councilor McCann, second by Councilor Borneman, whereas the town of Parry Sound owns and operates the Parry Sound Drinking Water System, MOE designation number 2200000585, which has been categorized as a large residential drinking water system. And whereas Ontario Regulation 170-03 as amended under the Safe Drinking Water Act requires, according to Schedule 22 summary reports for municipalities, that all large municipal residential drinking water systems have a report prepared no later than March 31st of each year, addressing the items detailed in regulation, and is given to the members of council in the case of drinking water system owned by the municipality. Therefore, be it resolved that the council of the town of Parry Sound hereby acknowledges receipt of the titled report. Town of Parry Sound, Tony Agnello Water Treatment Plant, Large Municipal Residential Drinking Water System Summary Report 2021, as prepared by the Manager of Water Systems. Any discussion? Councillor Keith and then Councillor Borneman.
Yes, Mr. Hall, would it be? What I'm wondering about is with weather conditions each year now, we're noticing changes in our weather and more flash rain and somewhat of flooding. So what I'm wondering about is, for example, this report for June 2021 looks like the cubic meters per day was highest in June with an amount here, whatever, of 3,654. What I'm wondering, are we charting to see if June will overall tends to be the month of the highest number of cubic meters per day? Are we doing any charting to see if there's changes, seeing as weather is becoming a little more unpredictable? And if so, what are we doing in reference to that in the event that we are?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the question, Councillor Keith. Yes, we do chart that. Not every month of June is the highest. We do keep track. Some things that affect it might be maintenance on the system as well, where we're, say, flushing hydrants, stuff like that, where we're using more water than normal. And yeah, some months later in the year are actually warmer, where we get higher uses. August, September have been higher more recently in the last couple of years. But yes, we are charting those.
Follow up?
And yes, thank you. So the purpose of charting them is, could you advise so I don't jump to a conclusion, please?
We're regulated to monitor those numbers. And as far as our production, we like to keep track of those as well, for efficiency on our production.
Okay.
So just for clarification then, when you're monitoring that per year, does that in any way impact any development, any thought in that line? Do you provide any input when there is a possibility of developments coming about when you're becoming more aware of these figures and the fluctuations?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Again, yeah, we keep track of those numbers. So we like to keep our max of what we're producing, especially in the summer months, because that is our highest production months. So we compare that to what we can produce as far as our maximum production.
Okay. All right. Councillor Borneman, I think you had your hand up.
Yes, Your Worship. Thank you. Good evening, Kyle. I'm hoping that, I'm not a water system expert, so reading the report, it seems to me that it's pretty consistent year over year, that there really aren't any surprises here, and that you folks are still producing high quality, safe water for the residents in the town of Parry Sound. Is there any, in your mind, are there any real red flags here that we should be concerned going forward?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Borneman. Yes, no real red flags. We're producing the best water that we can produce. We have great source water, and we don't see any potential problems in the future as far as design. We can do some alterations that can improve our production capacities. And yeah, we welcome it as well.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions? No. Okay. Anyone opposed to passing the resolution? I don't see anyone opposed, so that's carried. Moved by Councillor Horn, second by Councillor Borneman. The council accepts the bid from SQM Janitorial Services Incorporated for custodial services for the town of Parry Sound Public Washrooms in the amount of $59.45 per day, excluding taxes, and $95 per call in, excluding taxes, this being the lowest compliant bid of the two bids received. Discussion? Nope. Anyone opposed to passing this resolution? Nope. That's carried then. And next, we have a summary of the economic activities taken by our Economic Development Officer. There he is. Hi, Vlad.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, you have the floor.
Thank you. Yes. I need to share my screen first. Do you see my PowerPoint presentation now?
Yep, yep. You just may need to,
Yes, I know. Yeah.
but you're good.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Perfect.
All right, so good evening, Mr. Mayor, councilors, staff, and public. In my presentation, I will start with some examples of business supports that we provided to local businesses last year under COVID, and then I'll talk a bit more in a bit more detail about cruise and film industries, as these sectors of our economy were the most impacted by COVID last year. I will continue with a few key investment attraction projects and conclude with the economic development goals for this year. So, well, as we all know, last year was again dominated by COVID, so all our economic activities were also affected by the pandemic. So mostly we were focusing on just providing supports to local businesses in town and in the area, specifically at the Parry Sound Municipal Airport Business Park and at the Parry Sound Industrial Park. So some examples are on the screen. For example, we profiled the town of Parry Sound on 1,000 Towns of Canada. That's a new innovative social media platform which specifically promotes domestic tourism to small rural communities across Canada. We also kept our business support section on the town's COVID information page current and updated with various government programs to inform local businesses on what was available from provincial and federal governments to fight COVID. A year ago in March, there was a very neat initiative by local citizens a campaign called Parry Sound Grand Reopening. Obviously, at that time, we all hoped that COVID would disappear by spring of last year. Anyways, we supported that campaign by on our social media resources, and as far as I know, the mayor and several councillors actually provided some financial support to the campaign, and it was fairly well accepted. 20 vendors, 20 retailers, small retailers, mostly from downtown, signed up. Later last year in the fall, when the federal government provided a little bit of relief for international travel, and there was a window of opportunity for international visitors to come to Canada, we managed to host 3 international delegations in town between October and early December, and I will describe one such visit in more detail later in my presentation. And through the whole year, we also run Move Up virtual promo campaign. Basically, what it means, I researched and located various mostly small businesses in the GTA and Southern Ontario, connected with them, provided some information, all done virtually on Zoom and Skype, about funding programs available in Northern Ontario, in our area, about various business incentives, for example, very attractive price proposition as far as cost of land at the industrial park. And generally speaking, the idea of this program was to, well, first educate businesses in Southern Ontario of what's available here up north, but secondly, to motivate at least some of them to consider relocating their operations to Parry Sound area. And on this slide, I would like to talk a little bit more in detail about the cruise industry. Last year was lost again. The cruising season didn't happen because of the pandemic and because of the ban by the federal government on cruise ships entering our waters. We estimate that the local economy, the area economy to be more precise, lost over $250,000 because of this ban. But the good news is that post-COVID, cruise industry is recovering very strongly. There is a lot of pent-up demand for travel, and we anticipate a very good, very healthy season this year. Just last week, Transport Canada officially allowed international cruise ships to enter Canada waters as of April. So we will have a full and complete season, cruising season this year, as you can see on the slides, from late May through mid-October. 20 visits by 3 operators, and that's actually is a 40% increase from the last pre-pandemic year when we had ships in town, which is quite remarkable, I would say. Film industry, same story here. Because of lockdowns, health protocols, and other restrictions imposed due to COVID, it was really, well, it was near to impossible to attract any film crews to come to our area. Still, Richard Boddington managed to film his newest feature, and his crew, they spent over a month in town, and according to Richard, that contributed about $1 million to the local economy. So the film will be released September 1st, and he already confirmed that he will shoot a sequel in the town of Parry Sound this fall. Now some key investment attraction projects. All through last year and currently we continue to work with the Eco Development Group. I think you are all aware by now that this is a group of investors that is planning to build a significant manufacturing plant at the industrial park, a CLT, cross-laminated timber prefab housing manufacturing plant. And through the course of last year, they decided to add some more components to this facility, specifically lumber drying shop and window and door production line. So now they're looking at a total investment of $77 million with 45 jobs to be created in 2 years from now. If everything goes as planned, they think that they should be able to start production in their phase 1 manufacturing shop late this year, very late this year, around end of December, maybe early next year. But the investment today is already almost $2.5 million. And especially, it's not just land, it's 1.8 million in equipment. They actually, Eco Development, they actually bought and delivered equipment. The equipment, it is now in storage at a warehouse in Seguin, awaiting construction completion of the first phase of the facility at the industrial park. The same company, Eco Development, bought 2 lots in downtown, as you know, and they plan to build 2 condos, all made of CLT panels, cross-laminated timber panels. Construction is expected to start early June of this year, of course, and they say that it will be completed in 6 to 8 months from the construction start. Obviously, the CLT plant won't be ready, so all the panels, CLT panels and furnishings and everything else will be shipped from Europe. They have a partner in Italy, a CLT plant in Italy. So for these first 2 condos, all components will be delivered from overseas, from Italy. Another substantial investment is by Singular Solutions, a company from the GTA. They bought 3 lots at the Parry Sound Industrial Park last year. They plan to build a plant to produce biodegradable food packaging. The company has identical operation in the GTA, so they already manufacture the same eco-clean packaging, but in Toronto, but because of the high demand for this type of food packaging in North America, they decided to expand and set up a new facility in our industrial park. It is expected that they will create 22 jobs. Production start is expected in March, April of next year. And now on this slide, a few words about one of the 3 international visitors that managed to come to Parry Sound between October and December of last year. So this particular company called Infocom Limited visited us in October. They are from Ukraine. They manufacture electric vehicle charging stations in Europe. So the company owner, that's this gentleman on the left of the photo, He saw a lot of potential for electric vehicle infrastructure, including charging stations in Canada and the USA. So he decided to invest in an electric vehicle charging station assembly plant in our industrial park. And his initial plan was to revisit with us in March of this year and finalize the site, register a Canadian company, and start with the plant construction. Total investment was supposed to be 2.5 mil, with 16 full-time jobs created already this year. Obviously, right now the project is on hold due to situation in Ukraine, but I'm in contact with the company owner, and according to him, they still plan to come and complete this project in our area as soon as there is some resolution of that military conflict in his home country. Next, so some economic development goals for this year. I work with the West Parry Sound Regional Economic Development Officer on a project. We plan to develop a business retention and expansion survey and run it by companies in the area, including in town, of course. I think it will be an important research tool for us to better understand post-COVID requirements and challenges also of local businesses, and it will help us to better focus our work and initiatives in support of local business. I'm also in contact with OCI, Ontario Centre of Innovation. They started a rather interesting pilot program mid-summer of last year. They teamed up with an accelerator in Toronto, and they got some funding from the province. So the project, so they plan to bring 200 startups, high-tech startups from India, and run them through the incubator in Toronto, and then settle them down in Ontario, probably in the GTA area, most of those companies. So once again, they plan to bring 200 companies in about 5 years from now. After 6 months of running this pilot, they discovered that OCI discovered that cost of doing business in Toronto was too high for small startups from India. So they started to look around at other possible locations for those companies, including up in the north. So that's why they got in touch with me. We had a few virtual discussions with OCI project manager, and he is quite confident that Parry Sound would be a good location for at least some of those companies, as we are in Northern Ontario, so all funding programs apply, but we are still very close to the GTA. So the expectations are that he will start bringing these Indian companies to visit our area as of late April, May, and by the end of the year of this current year, we hope to have at least a couple of those companies relocated to Parry Sound. I'm also in cooperation with the Georgian Bay Biosphere. They have designed a number of biosphere-themed or eco-themed excursions that they will offer again, as a pilot project to one of the three cruise ship operators, to one of the to their passengers this summer. And I think there is a lot of potential in this type of excursions and experiences. So we plan to expand this program to cover all cruise ship operators that visit Parry Sound as of next year. Next, I am quite excited about this new hotel development in town, Best Western Plus. Of course, it will add 93 new rooms to our hospitality sector, which is always important. But what is even more important from my standpoint, from economic development standpoint, the business model of Best Western Plus is more focused on specifically business travelers. This particular hotel will have a swimming pool, fitness center, 2 large conference rooms, certain amenities for business travelers. So I plan to team up with the management of the hotel and work on attracting top class and larger conferences and other business style events to town as soon as they open. Right now, they told me they plan to open in early May. So already, yeah, I met, for example, I had a meeting with the Canada College VP of Student Relations last week, and he asked me questions about this hotel, and I explained to him that it will open in May, and it's a business travel oriented. So he immediately jumped on the idea. He said, that's an excellent addition to your hotel sector. And he said that Canada College would definitely plan some outings, some conferences at this hotel already this year. And as I just said, I had a meeting with VP Student Relations of Canada College last week. So we discussed certain joint projects, and in particular, I will continue to help them with attracting international students to their campus in Parry Sound. As you know, last year they brought 28 students from India, and he was quite happy how they adjusted to live in a small community. And with what's happening right now in Ukraine, I offered my support and he accepted. We will try to bring some students from Ukraine to Parry Sound this year, probably by August. I will also support the Canada College other interesting projects. They plan to open a startup incubator at their campus in town, which of course will be a great addition and great help to local young entrepreneurs and small startups. And one more thing, as you know, they have iCamp in North Bay, on their campus in North Bay, that is Advanced Manufacturing Center, a very modern facility. I believe they invested about $8 million in equipment, and in particular, they have a number of 3D printers there, which is basically unique for Ontario, and very few colleges across Canada have those capabilities. So Canada College plans to open a iCamp satellite office here in Parry Sound, and they plan to put up a full-time representative of iCamp in Parry Sound, and that person will connect with local businesses, specifically small manufacturing businesses, and again, specifically startups, and discuss their ideas about products and projects, and where applicable, this person will then transfer drawings and other documentation to iCamp Center in North Bay, where they could do some prototyping and small batch product production, component production. So this could be a very exciting addition to business environment in the town of Parry Sound, I believe. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation, and I can entertain any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it. It's a lot of work. Okay. Are there any questions at this time? Councillor Bachman?
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Vlad. I just wanted to say thank you very much for putting this presentation together. I think it's important to, present and show the community the work, the hard work that you've been doing for the past year, and what goals that have been set for 2022 moving in after as we get over this recovery in our economy. So I'm really pleased with what has been laid out. One of the items I did want to follow up on, and this goes back to last year's presentation, is that you noted about an economic development plan. And I just wanted to know what your thoughts were on that, and if it's something that you thought would be valuable to the town of Parry Sound. Yes, thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Bachman, I'm not quite sure. You mean economic development plan, like creation of economic development plan? Well, of course, it's important for any municipality to have an updated economic development plan. But I think last year we agreed that because of COVID and all the uncertainties around COVID, but also because of some budget constraints imposed on us by COVID, I think we agreed to postpone any decision as far as creating an economic development plan, because I think to do it professionally, we need to engage as a third party, maybe a marketing consultancy, and of course that requires some financial outlays. But yeah, I agree that it's an important item for any economic development department to have a systematic approach to economic development of a municipality. Yes.
Thank you very much. Well, that's very hopeful, and maybe we can consider that, or the next council may consider that in future budgets. So thanks again for your time and for being here this evening.
Thank you, Council.
Councillor Borneman.
Thank you. I'd reiterate what Councillor Bachman said. Vlad, the only thing I'd suggest is that you come back more often to keep us and the community apprised as to what's going on. And the question I have for you, has there been at any point any consultation with the property owners or promotion of the properties in the industrial area on North Tuthope Street within the town?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Not really. Again, last year it was a bit difficult to do any work in the area of business attraction, and frankly, last year I was more focused on on filling up the industrial park. And as you know, by August of last year, we sold out all the service lots at the Parry Sound Industrial Park. So by default, I now have to look around and try to find other appropriately zoned locations for companies, for manufacturing companies that, and I have some in my portfolio, so to speak, from the GTA that are looking to relocate to our area. So I will definitely review this, but for my actions in this respect through this year, through 2022.
I'll only add that the people who serve on the Parry Sound Industrial Park Board are most grateful for your efforts. You've made life far easier for us than what it had been for the number of years prior. Thank you.
For you, Mr. Mayor, if I may add, as far as I know, FEDNO and NOHFC both decided to fund expansion of the industrial park. I think they are providing $2 million, and from what I was told by FEDNO representative, 22 new service lots would be added to the industrial park sometime August, September. And that will be great. If this happens, this will make my life so much easier, because I will have an opportunity to promote industrial park to fairly sizable manufacturing companies. Again, mostly from Southern Ontario, yeah, from Toronto. It's a very attractive. I think as far as manufacturing, if you allow me to complete my thought, as far as attracting manufacturing business, Parry Sound is very lucky to have the industrial park. It's a great location, excellent price point for service lots, and I think we will see new advanced manufacturing companies coming to that area very soon, actually, later this year for sure.
Thanks. Councillor Keith.
Yes, thank you. I'm just asking Vlad, this report that you've prepared, and I think the photographs certainly carry on at least another 1,000 words, certainly send messages. Will all of this information be on the town website so people can peruse it? Because it certainly allows the taxpayer in our community and also people thinking about possibly relocating to see what Parry Sound is doing. Is that a possibility?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Well, it's all public information, so if you, as a council, if you think it has value, we can certainly put it up on the website. That's no problem. On the town's website, yes.
Well, I would hope it goes on the town website, because I think it definitely has value, and it certainly shows our transparency and accountability. So I hope it gets up there pronto. Thank you.
Okay.
Councillor McCann.
Yes, thank you, Vlad, for your report. Lots going on indeed. Two questions. One, with the COVID, we learned how to do things or reinvent the way we do things. Are you finding that, and certainly as we look forward to the many of these hurdles and mandates being relaxed, can we still count on people looking forward to work from their home and cottage and get the work done that they that they need to do, rather than to sort of locate permanently up here? And that's the first question. And the second question is, has there ever been any significant interest in establishing warehousing, because we're sort of in between Southern and Northern Ontario and the gateway to the West? So those are my two questions.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Well, it's a bit difficult for me to answer your first question, actually. I think COVID changed a lot of approaches to the way people do business. Small, medium, large companies, they're all different. So there may be some changes now that COVID restrictions are being lifted. I think it will probably move into the direction of hybrid system when people will do some part of their jobs from home offices, but still go and connect and operate in an office environment maybe few days a week or once a month. So personally, I think it will be a mixture of different settings. As far as that's question number one. As far as warehousing, frankly, we did have inquiries from companies in Toronto, even pre-COVID, and I had at least one client looking to set up a warehousing operation at the industrial park, exactly because of the location of the park being on the highway, on the major highway. COVID puts hold on this project, but I intend to reconnect with that investor fairly soon, probably in April, and see if they still plan to build a warehouse operation at the industrial park. We do have space. Unserviced lots, yes, they are available. As far as warehouse, we can set it up immediately, so to speak. So it's
Sure.
it's an opportunity, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay, so we have a resolution moved by Councillor Keith, second by Councillor Bachman, that the Economic Development Officer's summary of economic activities undertaken in 2021 be received for information purposes. Anyone opposed to that? Nope, that's carried. Vlad, I just want to say that, where'd you go? Okay, you are a go-getter. Thank you. And I really appreciate the work that you're doing. And I know it's going to be busier this year too when we get the cruise ships in. So that's going to be interesting. It will be, yeah, it'll be an interesting year this year and watching it unfold with restrictions being lifted and everything. So let's hope we have a really good 2022. And thank you.
Yeah, and I also want to thank you all for your support. It's important. And definitely this will be a different year than the previous two. And I'm looking forward because COVID, obviously, and I think it was clear from my presentation as well, COVID impacted specifically economic development in a very negative way. But thanks God is going away, and I'm looking forward resuming, normal operation, so to speak, very, very soon, as of April, I would say. Thank you very much.
Okay. Have a good evening. Take
Thanks.
care. Okay. Go to the next one, but Ms. Johnson, I'm going to have to ask you a question. Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
There is a portion of a bylaw that was stuck to the back of Vlad's report on traffic and control, and I think it has to do with 10.3.1. But it looks like it's a duplicate. Okay. Yeah, it's a duplicate. So,
Okay.
all right. I just wanted to make sure. I'll put it together, but we'll only sign one. Okay. So Moved by Councillor Borneman and seconded by Councillor Keith, whereas Council of the Corporation of the Town of Parry Sound through successive resolution permitted its meetings and meetings of its committees to be held electronically until March 31st, 2022 pursuant to bylaw 2020-7061, which expanded terms of electronic participation at meetings as permitted by the COVID-19 Economic Recovery Act 2020 SO 2020 C18. And whereas the Ontario government on March 9th, 2022 announced the lifting of COVID-19 restrictions and regulations by April 27th, 2022. And whereas council and council committees of the town of Parry Sound have successfully conducted business, including receiving deputations, holding public meetings through virtual meetings using Zoom video conferencing throughout the pandemic. And whereas new technology for live streaming and recording in council chambers / POA court is being reviewed and tested. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Parry Sound extends until April 30th, 2022, the terms of electric participation at meetings of council, local boards and committees of either of them per the following. Electronic participation counts towards quorum. Electronic participants are permitted to vote, and electronic participation is permitted in a meeting closed to the public, and that council's procedural bylaw be amended to reflect the following effective May 1st, 2022. With appropriate notice, council may meet virtually as occasions required by direction of the mayor in consultation with the clerk and or CAO. Committees of council be permitted to meet in person or virtually at their discretion. Discussion. Councillor Keith.
Yes, my concern is in the second half in respect to as of or effective May 1st, 2022, committees of council as it is written right now be permitted to meet in person or virtually at their discretion. My concern is that there can be in the event that there's a committee of council that chooses to meet in person, as was indicated, I think earlier in the meeting tonight, being kind and understanding about COVID, there certainly could be members who want to participate but would prefer to be virtual rather than a committee that people are meeting in. So I am asking for an amendment. I'm moving for an amendment. So something to the effect of committees of council and members be permitted to meet in person or virtually at their discretion. And that way it will allow a member who wants to participate, but wants to participate virtually rather than a number of members maybe wanting to meet in person. I think that shows the hybrid that needs to happen now, because we know virtual meetings are quite productive and possible.
So just to clarify, so that sentence is there, committees of council be permitted to meet in person or virtually at their decision. So you're saying also like a hybrid?
Yes, because that's at their discretion. And I'm just thinking you could have a committee where whatever, 70% or the chair decides that, yes, I want that meeting to be in person, but there could be some members of that committee who would prefer to be involved virtually. And I think that needs that opportunity to allow that participation that way needs to be also included. And I don't think it is the way it's written right now. It seems one, left or right, but there's no midway. So,
Ms. Johnson, I'll get to you in a second, Councillor McCann. I want to try to get the wording around this. Ms. Johnson, what do you think needs to be added here?
Your Worship, the way it is written, the intention was that it is up to the discretion of the committee as a whole, as that committee determines. So the committee may determine that it wants to meet virtually or in person or a hybrid or from time to time one or the other. And that all could be at the discretion of the committee. I think if I understand what Councillor Keith is proposing, she's proposing that it be written into our bylaw that that it must be available either virtually or in person, that the committee can't decide through a majority of the committee to be one or the other, that this council is deciding for committees that should any one of the members of a committee want to meet virtually or in person when the rest are not, that there will be a hybrid. My only concern with that is just that there would be an assurance of the technical ability to do a hybrid meeting.
Yeah.
That's my only concern at this point. And I do know that one of the things that was built into this report was a consideration, or was an expression that we are actually looking at testing some technology. And so I'm not just sure. And that in fact is why I was looking at the extension.
Yeah. And that's where I'm looking for clarification on the wording, because that's what I'm reading into it. It's not just the fact that you have choice, but with built into the actual procedural bylaw, if a person decides one way or the other, that it is a right that they have to be able to attend the meeting in whatever format they choose, right? Yeah.
And that's what I'm understanding from Councillor Keith.
Yes, that's what
Yes.
I'm understanding as well.
Yes.
Clarify it in my own mind here on this. So the wording on that, then, do we need to add, we need to add something extra to it? Yeah.
Member there may be, and I'm just escaping me at this moment to get exactly what it is. I certainly understand what Councillor Keith's request is, and if there's a seconder for that, the council will be voting on that. So basically, it's that the committees of council and its members be permitted to meet in person or virtually at the individual choice of members.
That would be more of it, at the individual choice of the member.
Yes, that's what I'm asking for.
I've so worded the proposed amendment, which has a mover, Councillor Keith.
I'm just going to pen this in here. Okay, I just wanted to make sure we had clarification around that. Okay, Councillor McCann.
Well,
Are you seconding it?
Hmm?
Are you seconding it?
Yes, I would second it. Yes, yeah.
Okay, all right.
In the form of, but I would like to make a point, though. Many of the committees that we all sit on already accept individuals to participate and allow it to contribute towards a quorum if someone is talking with us, either say through Skype or just on the phone. I know that with Belvedere, we've often had people on the phone. So are we already trying to step on the toes of the individual bylaws with the various committees that would meet, or do we trump it all?
I think what we're doing is we're allowing the choice. That's the way I see it.
Okay, well, I certainly second this.
Yeah, I believe that's what I'm reading into this, is that because of the technology and the technology that we're going to be working on and that sort of thing, that we're going to offer choice. There may be some people want to meet in person. Okay, fine. But there might be others that say, no, I still want to meet virtually. And so that's at their discretion. So that's what this amendment is about, making sure that they have that right.
And so my only caution is that if we dictate that to the other committees, what if they have their own policy that that says, no, you can't do that, or we can only have a certain percentage of people. Like, it's a great idea. I support it, but I'm just wondering if we're going to step on other toes of other committees, if we're
These
forcing
committees-
them to do this.
Okay, these committee, we're not forcing anybody to really do anything. What we're doing is we're saying you have a right. You have a right to attend, but these are all committees of council.
Okay,
Okay, so they have to comply with our bylaws.
okay, that's the catch. All right, that's good then.
All right, so, but as Councillor Keith is trying to make sure is that let's say you have a committee of 5 people. 4 people say, we want to meet in person. Okay, well, that one person shouldn't have to be thrown off a committee or not attend the committee because those 4 people want to meet in person. They should be able to meet virtually as well. And we set it up so that hopefully they can.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
that's the hope.
That's
Okay,
good. Mhm.
yeah. Again, it's all about trying to be kind. Taking other people's, situations into consideration.
Well, and if I could add as to what Councillor Burton said earlier in his report, that it seems like, and I would hope that many of the committees that we meet on will continue to meet this way, whether it's a museum board or what have you, Belvedere, it's just so much more convenient and cost effective to do this.
I agree.
So, but I think when it comes to council, it'll be nice to get back to the chambers though.
Okay, Councillor Borneman, you had your hand up.
No, I think you covered it, Mr. Mayor. You
Okay.
covered it, Mr. Mayor. There will, the committees outside of council will follow their own rules, but the committees of council are supposed to follow the bylaws of the town of Parry Sound. You've already stated that well.
Okay, thank you. Any more discussion on the amendment? No. Anyone opposed to passing the amendment? No one's opposed. The amendment's carried. So now the resolution as amended. Any further discussion on the resolution as amended? No. Anyone opposed to passing the resolution as amended? Nope, that's carried then.
Your worship, if I might ask a question.
Yep.
The only question I did hear one councillor, I believe it's Councillor McCann, indicate it would be good for council to get back to regular meetings in person. And you saw from the proposed resolution, which you just passed, that council may meet virtually from time to time on occasions required, but at the direction of the mayor in consultation with the clerk of the CIO. If council thought that it wanted to meet virtually as on a regular basis, that would be helpful to give that signal to me as the clerk and to staff so that we would prepare accordingly. I mean, I understand that you have passed this as it is, but if there was a desire to have virtual meetings of council into the future more as the default, that would be helpful to know. That's all.
I think that's something we'll sit on and think about for a little bit. And like, is mentioned in there is new technology that we're looking at for the council chambers. So let's take a look at the new technology. Let's take a look at everything else, and then we can decide from there. But I agree with you. I know for planning the meeting and everything, you want to know where we're going to be, right? So, and how that's all going to unfold. Because this type of meeting is definitely different than running one where we're all here in the chambers. So, yeah. Okay, Councillor Horn.
Plus, we also have to take in the consideration of opening our in-person meetings to the public.
Yep. Yep, that's true. Okay, on to the next one. Moved by Councillor Keith and second by Councillor Horn. Whereas the town of Parry Sound supports the guiding principles of freedom, self-determination, tolerance, and peace. And whereas the recent unprovoked invasion of invasion of an active war against the sovereign country of Ukraine by Russia fundamentally conflicts with these guiding principles. And whereas increasingly over the last number of years, Ukrainian individuals and businesses have invested in and moved to the Parry Sound area, advancing a relationship with the Ukrainian peoples. Therefore, be it resolved that the town of Parry Sound joins other municipalities across Canada in declaring its support for the continued sovereignty of Ukraine and the safety and freedom of its peoples, and that the town of Parry Sound hereby donates $1,000 to the Canadian Red Cross Ukraine and Humanitarian Crisis Appeal, and urges residents interested in supporting Ukraine while it is under attack to similarly donate to the Canadian Red Cross Ukraine Humanitarian Crisis Appeal, and that this copy of this resolution be forwarded to AMO and to FCM. And my understanding is that, I could be wrong, but if we do this, it's matched by the federal government, and they add the amount that we do to this as well. So it gets doubled up. Any questions? Nope. Okay. Anyone opposed to passing this resolution? No one's opposed. That's carried. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Keith and seconded by Councillor Horn that bylaw number 2022-7228 being a bylaw to amend the parking and traffic control bylaw 2019-6912 to include overnight parking permits for the Mill Lake boat launch be considered as read at first time. All in favor? That's carried. Are all members in favor of having the second and third readings? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Horn, second by Councillor Keith, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Any discussion? Councillor McCann?
Well, just a quick question, then maybe Mr. Thompson can handle this. Or I'm sorry, so my question is, and in reading the report, I see that permits are readily available. Just how easy will it be for someone who maybe is here up on the weekend and the town office is closed? Is something like this very easy to get offline then?
Through your worship, the permits will be offered for sale the exact same manner they're offered over at Champaign, which is there are QR codes on site on signage that people can use to buy permits that way. And there's also a link, like the URL code is published on the signage as well to go directly to the website if someone isn't comfortable using a QR code to purchase. So anywhere that somebody has access to the internet, they would be able to buy that permit. So while they're in the parking lot, or if they've already, gone out on their boat and need to extend a permit for some reason, they could purchase it additionally there. There's no printed piece to the permits. We receive an email on our end as to which plates have permits on which days, and that's consulted when doing any type of patrols of the area.
Okay, and also too, I noticed that the license plate is tied in with the permit. So you're not buying the permit for somebody else or sharing it with someone else. You've got to be there with your plate on vehicle.
Through your worship, that's correct. It is per vehicle, per plate. So there's an expectation they have to enter that plate to be able to permit that vehicle to park there.
Sure. Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay. Councillor Bachman?
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Ms. Kruger. I'd just like to thank you for looking at alternative ways to allow residents to enjoy the ability to have the option to use the boat launches at no cost. And I would ask council to look at the alternative method. When I do read this, I see in the process that you've outlined for residents is that they would need to come in to request free overnight parking pass for Champaign. And I'm just wondering if there were alternative options to eliminate that. And I do believe there are, and I'm not asking you to define that, but when I look at the proof of items that they would need to submit, I'm really confident that the system could be implemented online in a similar manner to eliminate administration costs, whether it's uploading proof of residency and other items that you've noted in here. And so what I would like to see, and I can't speak for my colleagues, but maybe considering this as a pilot project. And maybe if, we still have ice on our lakes right now, and maybe this is something that could be reviewed a little further to and brought back to council maybe at the next meeting to really define what that could look like with, if possible, by eliminating a person to come in, but also looking at if that's not an option, how that might look like. And when I say it's because many of the people that I spoke to that were residents, and very few, as you've noted in your report. So the process and administration, I think, would be minimal, especially with some creativity. But it really had to do about people going out and then coming back in at night, taking their boat out and then going back again at 5 a.m. to get that early fish. And it just became, very, I don't know, maybe a headache or inconvenience, and having that luxury of paying taxes and being a resident, would allow them to just, again, the very few. I think that's something that we should take into consideration. So those are my comments and feedback on that. And I can't speak for council, but I would like to see that possibly come back to council if anyone would support that.
Anyone support that? Councilor McCann?
Sure, I think it's worth looking at.
Okay, Councilor Barnum?
Yeah, I'd like to hear Ms. Kruger's comments on that, if there's as well.
Yeah.
She's the one who's actually done the work.
That's right. So let's take that as direction, and you can bring that back to a future council meeting after some thought, that sort of thing on this. Yeah. Councilor Keith?
Just for clarification, when that's being thought out and brought back to council, I would like to definitely have a clarification as to what is the definition of a resident. Is the resident a person that is a taxpayer? Is it a person that lives here year round or seasonal? I'd like to have real clarification as to what is a resident. Thank you.
Okay, that could be added to it as well. Yeah, I think that would be good clarification. Okay, anyone opposed to that direction? No? Okay, that's carried. I'd like to get back to this particular bylaw and maybe we can take care of it. Are there any further comments or questions on this one? No? Okay, anyone opposed to passing this bylaw? No, it's carried then. I should note tonight as well that Chief Thompson is acting CAO tonight, and he's also Director of Development and Planning. Chief Thompson, you can say hello. Mr. Harris is away, so you're getting off real easy tonight.
Good evening, everyone. You've made it very easy. Now I understand why Clayton's always in such a good mood. So
Okay. All right, next one, moved by Councillor Borneman, moved by Councillor Borneman, second by Councillor Burden. Where is this? Okay. That bylaw number 2022-7229 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement between the Minister of Long-Term Care and the town of Parry Sound as the designated delivery agent for the District of Parry Sound for data sharing agreement related to the delivery of the Community Paramedicine Long-Term Care Program, CPLTC, be considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. Are all members in favor of having the second and third readings? And that's carried as well. Moved by Councillor Burden and seconded by Councillor Borneman that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Any discussion? Councillor McCann?
Oh, just when Mr. Thompson thought he was getting off easy.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so my involvement with Belvedere long-term care, that means something to me. What are we talking about here when we're talking about sharing, data sharing? I'll let you take it from there.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this is a little bit of a chicken and egg issue in that we've been operating a community paramedicine program for long-term care, for the Ministry of Long-Term Care for a year now. Part of the agreement to operate, that's what we're being funded by the Ministry of Long-Term Care to the tune of $1 million a year to operate this program. It's a fully funded program. It doesn't cost the taxpayers in the District of Parry Sound anything. When we signed on for this agreement, part of what we were signing on for was data sharing. And the data sharing is for health information of the participants in the program. It is a pilot project. It's a 3-year pilot project. And the Ministry of Long-Term Care is going to be taking a look at the data that flows through the system and determine, how the program can be improved, if it should continue into the future after the 3 years. The problem being that the Ministry of Long-Term Care has not been able to get around on the data sharing agreements until now this year, this March, and that's a year after the entire program has already started. So we are, it is a little bit behind the curve, I guess, but the data sharing is public or health information. So it's sensitive data, and health information has its own act around the use of that information. So the agreement, it's my understanding, is fairly locked down and is fairly complicated for that reason.
So follow up then, you mentioned this information is sensitive, but is it an aggregate form or does it clearly identify individuals?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the data is washed of information that should not be shared. So it's, of course, these agreements are created through the provincial lawyers and the ministries. This is not something that's created by us to share with them. These all are top-down agreements and are vetted at the provincial level. So the information that's being shared is deemed legal by the province to be shared, and again, is part of the overriding components of the program in the first place.
It almost sort of sounds like it's out of the purview of council, but I guess not.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I wouldn't suggest that it's out of council's responsibility to share this. We generate the data because we run the EMS service and are responsible for the EMS service. So the data is generated and gathered by the West Parry Sound Health Center staff who have a contract with us for delivering the service. Therefore, it is the EMS services data that is being shared.
Okay, good, fair enough. Thank you.
Anything further? No? Anyone opposed to passing this bylaw? No one's opposed. That's carried. Thank Chief Thompson. This is the addition to the agenda. Moved by Councillor Keith and second by Councillor Burden. That bylaw number 2022-7232 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement with the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks for the improving, monitoring and public reporting of sewage overflows and bypasses program be considered as read a first time. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Are all members in favor of having the second and third readings? Yep, that's carried. Moved by Councillor Horn, second by Councillor Keith, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Any discussion on this one? Nope. Okay. This does have to do with some money that we will get to do this particular program, and it's a considerable amount of money. So anyway, anyone opposed to passing the bylaw? No. It's carried. Everyone seems to be in favor. No one is opposed. Okay. Moved by Councillor McCann, second by Councillor Bachman, that bylaw number 2022-7231, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council, be considered as read a first time. All in favor? And that's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? And that's carried. Moved by Councillor McCann, second by Councillor Bachman, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Anyone opposed to passing this bylaw? No? Okay, that's good. That's carried. Okay. Prior to adjourning, I'd like to offer the following information to the public regarding the next council meeting. The next regular meeting of council for the town of Parry Sound is scheduled for Tuesday, April the 5th, 2022 at 7 p.m. The meeting will be held via Zoom video conferencing and will be live streamed and recorded. All regular council meetings are held at 7 p.m. on the first and third Tuesday of each month, except January and August, where only one regular meeting is scheduled. The council meeting schedule, notices of special council meetings, complete agendas and minutes, and instructions on accessing live streamed and recorded council meetings are all posted on the town's website. You can go to www.parrysound.ca under news and public notices. Your TV airs council meetings on Saturday at 9:30 a.m. following a regular council meeting. And for Cogeco listings, contact www.yourtv.tv. I'd like to thank everyone for a good meeting tonight, and for those that attended virtually, from the public. And thank you, everyone. Have a great night.